When your daughter's learning how to drive, you say,
Híjole, here we go.
but what you should say is,
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
to help you choose the coverage you need. State Farm, Bloomington, Illinois.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Join us and unwind with a good book. Welcome to Relaxing Reads.
Hi, it's Deb in Halifax.
And it's Simone in Vancouver.
This month's book, our latest read, is a debut rom-com novel by Sonya Singh, where we are taken on a journey of letting go, self-discovery, a woman's journey of connecting to her South Asian roots, culture, food, family feast, and fun in Sari, Not Sorry. Manny Dogra is the beautiful young CEO of Breakup, a highly successful company that helps people manage their relationship breakups. As preoccupied as she is with her business, she's also planning her wedding to handsome architect Adam Jameson while dealing with the loss of her beloved parents. Manny has never understood why her parents, who were both born in India, always wanted her to become an all-American girl. But that's what she did and all she knows. She knows next to nothing about her South Asian heritage, and that's never been a problem until her parents are no longer around, and a photoshopped image of her that makes her skin look white appears on a major magazine cover. Now the woman who built an empire encouraging others to be true to themselves is having an identity crisis. So, Simone, what did you think?
Oh my gosh, this book really had everything. And, you know, I'm South Asian, and I just love the way the story was told through being at a big fat Indian celebration. It's something that I've missed these last few years because of the pandemic. There hasn't been such big events. So when I got immersed into this book, it almost took me back to all those scenarios you would get in at those weddings, like the song, the dance, the food, and then the meddling aunties who are coming up to you and asking such, inappropriate questions. And even about Manny, like seeing just how much she kind of shunned her culture in the beginning, but then she got to a point where she was like, you know what? I need to discover the real me. I just loved this whole book from beginning to end. It had so much of everything. It had those lighthearted moments. It had the things that were heavy and made you feel emotion. But it was just such a great read.
It was. I loved it too. I think it's one of my favorite books. And as I was reading it, I thought, I've never been to an Indian wedding and I so want to be part of it. The bright, vibrant, colors, the music, the dancing, and everything in between. I was really drawn to the characters. It was an easy read, and I don't know, there was just something so dynamic and wonderful. I felt like I was in every setting, and in every page I kept going through thinking, oh my gosh, where are we going to be next? Because I love all of it. And the characters, I love the characters.
And she was so descriptive in her writing that you could, even if you've never attended a wedding, you've probably felt like you were there because you were experiencing so much of it, or maybe things you've seen on TV. And I think now that when you do go to your first wedding, you're just going to be on the lookout for all these little scenarios that could be happening.
Definitely. So dating, of course, is what we get into with the book, but it's complicated. And we know love is complicated. Ending a relationship is complicated. We all love a great love story, but how about a great breakup? What do you think about the idea of this service that Manny and her company provides.
What an amazing concept. Like, I never thought of this. And you think about friends or people in your life who have said they need to send a text to somebody, whether it's a breakup or just something else, and they don't know how to frame it. And it's almost easier to send a text or an email than it is to make that phone call, because then you take that whole emotion out of it. But sometimes you need people to craft these for you. You never think about it, because when you see words come through, they can be taken so many different ways. And if you have someone who's an expert in this field who's going to soften the blow and do that for you, I thought it was a really neat idea. And I was thinking, does this exist? Is there an app? And you think of any kind of a scenario. What if it's like leaving a job or asking for a raise? What if there was somebody to help draft that for you? I think there's definitely a business idea here.
I do too. And, like talking about love stories, we all get behind love and think it's wonderful. But when two people are just not getting into what the relationship started out as being, so wonderful, and when they need to end it, you see some couples who you think, hey, how did they do it? They're still getting along even though they're not together. And then you look at another couple who they hate each other, they can't stand each other, and they can't be in the same community. And if there are other family ties, it's just really messy. So if you can help somebody create that great breakup, then perhaps if it's meant to be, maybe you can be still friends with that person. I think this service, if it doesn't exist, I think that, definitely somebody should be getting into it.
Well, that's just it. It's that whole aspect of closure. For anything you really go through, once you get closure, and that could be instantaneously, it could take months, it could take years. But once you get that, then you can move forward. So I think for people, when a relationship is ended and they still don't understand, then of course you're going to carry a little bit of animosity towards the partner you were with. But if you were at a place where you're like, okay, we're not compatible, we had a great time together, these are the reasons we shouldn't be together, and you're told that sometimes from an outsider, it's almost helpful, because when it's just both of you saying, no, you're like this or I'm like this, then you don't understand it. But I think having that outsider intel helps for that relationship. So ultimately, like, the whole idea was about that closure.
Yeah, definitely. And if you are in the heat of the moment and you've got all these thoughts about what you want to say to that person to wrap it up and, get on to the next relationship, or at least just close this one, you might not have, once you get those words out there and send it along, it might not be exactly how you had intended it to be. So I think the help of a professional would smooth things over for sure.
Definitely.
So in the book, there is that journey of identity and self-discovery at work, at home, as a minority. Have you ever found yourself hiding from who you really are, or just not interested in what you think your true identity might reveal, like Manny, when in the end it might be something that you had been missing?
Well, for me, I think, I relate to the what they talked about in the book about, the way our parents are and the culture they had. They often wanted a certain direction for their children. It was the whole idea of, we are bringing you to a different country, a country where you have so many different opportunities. And I remember when I first wanted to get into broadcasting, I was almost afraid to say that, because there wasn't a lot of people like me in the industry. So for my parents, they were kind of like, well, maybe, you could look at being a school teacher, or maybe you could be a counselor. And I said, I want to be on TV, or I want to be on the radio. And they just couldn't even fathom that. So there was a while I think I kind of suppressed that. And then I just continued to fight for it. And I thought, this is what I wanted to do. And they accepted it, because they realized, there's a reason we bring our kids to a place like this. We have to let them adapt and immerse themselves and find who they are. And my parents were really great. They really taught us a lot about the culture. We went back to India, many, many times. So I feel very lucky that I know a lot about my background, but I was also able to kind of be a Canadian and adapt to who I wanted to be in this country. So I didn't feel like I had to hide a lot, but I have a lot of friends, and I related to a lot of these characters who just were so afraid of what other people would say, or their parents, whether that's, coming out, or, being in a relationship with someone who wasn't from the same background as you. But I think in the last few years, books like this and having these conversations are what is going to move everybody forward. And I think this is important. It's a topic that you should have. It's things I discuss with my children because, again, I was born here and I now understand what they go through, whereas my parents weren't born here. So they didn't know what we experience day to day in school. So, I think for a lot of people who are still afraid to have those conversations, talking about it, reading books like this, or having your parents read a book like this, because maybe they can understand, oh, have we been too strict on our kids? I think it's important.
Yeah. And I think, perhaps parents are fearful of.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ARTS. Just go to Indeed.com/ARTS right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
What society, what the community might think if they don't understand the tradition, or there are a number of barriers because this isn't where they grew up and they're trying to learn about what their new community is all about. But living in a multicultural society, we should all be, so much more interested. And I think there is more interest in so many different cultures now that we're all trying to embrace. And I think it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. But to be able to embrace all of it, like 100%. And I think a lot of people, you're just looking at pop culture and what's popular right now as I'm growing up. Do I see anybody who looks like me, and can I connect with them? And if you don't, you just kind of follow the lead of whoever you might be hanging out with in the community. And I'm sure it's very difficult as a minority. I never grew up faced with that. But I did, I guess, part of me wasn't always interested in my background or my culture, even though I did some dance, and I was introduced to it because it was all around me. But and I think a lot of people are looking into more of their ancestry, their background, what their traditions and history really were all about. And I think because we've got some more information out there readily available, it makes it a little easier. And I think that books like Sari, Not Sorry is definitely a great step forward.
Definitely. Now, we talked a little bit about the characters in the book. Who would you say was your favorite character? There were so many animated ones.
Yeah. Do you know what? I mean, I love Manny. I definitely love Manny. But I think as we got moving and maybe towards the end, the one that stood out for me and actually got me teared up because of the relationship that he had created with Manny was her stylist, Alion.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was something about him and how he loved who she was, and the fact that she was able to embrace and love herself after she discovered, who she truly was and wasn't afraid of her identity. And I don't know, there was something very special about that. And I don't know why, but I got really emotional over that. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's like a big brother, or he's a great supporter that perhaps will always be there for her now.
I love that as well. I think he was somebody who was gay or likes to, be out at drag shows. He was somebody that felt kind of, he explained to her he was outed by the culture, like he was not accepted. And then when he saw her having this fight to be accepted or learn more about it, I think that's when he was like, I need to help this person understand who they are and be free. And, hopefully he can get to a place with his family where he's more accepted. And so it was lovely to see how much support he gave her and how he was with her, and he just was always rooting for her. And I love that about him too. He was a great character.
Yeah, and when he told her that, there's something magical about her, just his description of who he saw versus what she wasn't seeing it was quite beautiful. Somewhat similar to Sammy and how he saw Manny as well.
Yeah, the parts of her that she didn't see. What would you say was your favorite moment in the book?
Perhaps through all the festivities, when Sammy himself admitted what he saw, in this woman who he'd been spending the week with at his brother's wedding. And just, again, his description and how taken he was with Manny, and how she was starting or beginning to accept herself as well. Another character I really liked was Sammy's sister, Manisha. I mean, she was so much.
She was a firecracker.
She really was. She really was. And I don't know who she reminds me of. I feel like I know her. But she was everything. She was full of emotion. And I think I'd like to hang out with her.
She would definitely be fun. And I love that now where we had this proposal at the end, and, they finally get to be sisters. So I think that's really cute. And I love how we didn't once mention Adam. This whole time we've been talking.
Oh, right. There was that guy.
And I also...
Oh, yeah.
that message he sent to that magazine. Oh,
wow.
That was terrible. And
yeah,
the other thing, it was funny how she wanted nothing to do with Sammy in the beginning. And it's so funny how this works out, because sometimes you hear those stories where people were annoyed or didn't like someone. And then, look, they grew to love each other.
Yeah. We're total opposites. There's no way we can possibly ever get together.
And there was almost like two love stories going on, with the story of her mom, who was now passed away, who had loved this man in India, but wasn't able to be with him, and then ended up with Manny's dad and learned to love him and had a great marriage with him. But the moment that Sammy's dad sat her down, and we found out, bit of a spoiler, obviously you've read it, but we found out he was the man that her mom was in love with. I thought that was so special, because now that's also a missing piece of her that kind of can come back into her life as almost like a father figure.
Yeah, and the fact that he seemed quite standoffish when first meeting her, and she thought, this guy does not like me. He won't speak with me. There's something I'm doing wrong. Like, what is it that I have to do to get him to, open up to me? But I think you're right. That father figure, and he was so gentle and so warm and loving toward her. I thought, oh, there's something special.
Yeah, it was absolutely magical. Yeah, I loved it. I mean, this was a great book, beginning to end. It'll keep you intrigued. You'll want to just know what's happening next. There's so much entertainment value, and there's so much beauty in the actual final story. And yeah, the concept of the breakup. I think somebody should create that.
Definitely. I hope we get to learn more about the Patels, like what's happening next. I don't know. There's another book coming, but I'm not sure if it's completely different or if it is connected to this one.
Well, hopefully we can get those questions answered. On the phone with us, we have Sonya Singh, the author of Sari, Not Sorry. Hi, Sonya.
Hi, how are you both?
We are fantastic.
Great.
How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you.
We're both excited to chat with you about your book.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah, we both just read through it and we couldn't put it down. We loved it so much.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Deb, I'll have you start with some of your questions.
Well, Sonya Singh, we are so excited, so happy to have some, just a moment to chat with you.
Thank you. I'm excited to
You're
be
so
here.
welcome.
I'll give you lots of moments. You'll get lots of moments.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Well, we love Sorry Not Sorry. And I can't even believe this is your debut novel. It's a bestseller. You've already got a second one in the works. There's something about a Hallmark movie. It sounds like everything is lined up very well for you. And so many writers would hope that this would happen. But tell us how you got here. Despite the success, it was kind of a tough job getting to this point for a number of reasons, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was, hurdles that were present from day one, and part of that's being in the industry, which has been dominated by, people that don't look like me. And so rom-com is generally a author celebrated through Caucasian women. And I really had to break into this industry and convince agents that, one, I was going to write a South Asian-focused rom-com, and my leading lady is South Asian in a very non-traditional role. But also, I came up to a point where I was receiving rejections due to the fact that I was a debut South Asian author about to debut in the same year as another author who was South Asian. So there wasn't enough room, I was told, for two South Asian authors to debut in the same year. So it was quite gutting to hear this, but at the same time gave me a lot more, fuel to add to this fire that was already burning, and just pushed me harder to make sure that the story was told with the right people and with the right publisher, and to an audience that was going to celebrate it.
Well, you have an incredible story, and the characters are wonderful. For some people, perhaps, how can you explain how important it is to have culture in this novel, especially South Asian culture?
Yeah, I think for me, Manny, who's my protagonist, really showcases the fact that there is a lot more than just the relationships that she's bending through, but she's also discovering herself in this journey. And that was really important to me, being a 40-something female who only discovered and embraced her South Asian heritage a few years ago. And so I really wanted to be able to carry those elements in a very authentic and genuine way, but also have laughter through this. This is a quick read. It's a fiction book. It's not faction. And the point of view of the story of a woman who is discovering the South Asian culture in a span of a week is going to be food, fashion, and feasting with family. So I really wanted to drop those nuggets of being able to walk away with an audience wanting to learn more. And this is my point of view as a South Asian woman telling this story.
And it is beautiful. Like it's really, you got me. Like I was so invested in this and everything, and it's so vibrant and descriptions of I felt like I was in just about every page.
Oh, thank you. That's so great to hear. And that was actually one of the yellow flags that popped up when I was putting my book out there, and I wanted agents to discover it, and they weren't quite set on the fact that it was heavy in dialogue. The settings and the scenes were amped up a little bit later in the book when Manny does go to the wedding and she gets to be part of the engagement, the reception, and really invest herself in the clothing and the food and the smells and sights and sounds of being South Asian. But I wrote it this way so that one day you'll be able to see my book on TV or in a movie.
Yeah, we definitely both picked that up. And I know Deb has said she's never been to a South Asian wedding, and this just totally immerses you in that world.
I know. I want to get married now.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you wrote this during the pandemic while going through a breakup yourself. So and a number of other people did as well. I guess that time gave reflection for reevaluating relationship.
Yeah, no, I think that I was probably at a point where I had dedicated so much time to this relationship and so much of my energy. And I really just got to this point where I was putting together these really silly PowerPoint presentations as to why me and this individual should be together. And I realized that I had just lost my mind. And instead of putting all these efforts towards the words that were going into text and emails and PowerPoint presentations, why don't I just put it into a book? And it almost became a way for me to really introduce a form of therapy, and eventually moved on from that relationship and just the toxic behavior that was not just coming from the individual, but myself, And so I think it really helped me heal and created space for myself to be seen in a character who so openly talks about breaking up relationships and dating, which oftentimes in the South Asian culture, we don't necessarily talk about that so openly.
And had you been looking for ideas to write, but this, because everything was so fresh with your own relationship, you couldn't ignore it? Or had you been thinking, I'm definitely going to be doing some kind of a romance novel? That's
a great question. I think I got to the point where I had always wanted to write rom-com. And that was ignited by the fact that I was watching, I grew up watching Sex and the City, Bridget Jones, 1, 2, and 3. And the characters were not South Asian. They did not look like me, but yet were expressing all the do's and don'ts of being in a relationship. And so I knew that as a writer, if I did become an author, I really wanted to have a central character who was going to be South Asian, and I wanted this face to be the next Carrie or the next Bridget, and that's how I came about writing the story.
Oh, well, again, it's so wonderful. And I guess like therapy, sometimes we need to go to outside sources as strangers so we can hear the advice, hear the words we need to help sort through the end of a relationship. And is there such a thing of a breakup service? And if not, will you add that to your plate?
What's so funny is that I initially always felt like I was a breakup service because I was constantly the ear to my friends. And so I obviously didn't charge them for my advice. And clearly I wasn't taking any of my own advice. And so, I think it's a great idea. And I have had a little bit of, you walk into this, this black hole of sometimes as authors, you go online and you read the reviews, which I will never do again. But there are sometimes people get upset about the fact that how did I, this day and age, write about a woman who owns a breakup agency? That's such a difficult thing for someone to be broken up through text or email. But the reality is that the pandemic really showed us various types of breakups, including being ghosted, thinking that you're in a relationship and the person never talks to you again or blocks you on WhatsApp. And that's how people were being broken up with during the pandemic. And I think that's going to continue with or without the pandemic.
And I think the key here is, you talked about this in your book, is the closure aspect. Like breakups can go terribly when you are ghosted or you don't understand. But if you can provide someone with a reason and give them that little bit of, okay, hey, let's just realize we're not compatible. It's okay for us to step away. I think that's a big part of it.
Oh, yeah. And, the other thing is oftentimes that we don't close the door all the way. And, you kind of leave it a bit open. And so the other individual who is being dumped, for lack of a better word, kind of sees a carrot that's dangling and perhaps may or may not put efforts into trying to rekindle that relationship. So breakup agency is shutting that door completely. There is no window, there's no crack, no one's getting in.
And Deb and I were saying that it's such a great service that there should be some kind of a service to help you quit your job or ask for a raise at work.
I know, it could just go into so many things. And, the truth is, at least for me, there are friends that I really got to reevaluate friendships during the pandemic too. And sometimes, I had to break up with those friends. And so I think when we talk about breaking up, it can be, breaking up with a job, breaking up with a friendship. It just goes past the idea of it doesn't always have to be an intimate relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just on that point, thinking about all those Zooms that we started with all these different groups for what seemed like forever, but then gradually they were a bit tiresome, a bit much, and we moved away from them.
Right. Well, and really, most of them also had copious amounts of alcohol. As you try
there
to
was that. Oh, yeah.
Yes. So I had to sober up a bit and realize that, every Thursday, Friday, Saturday didn't need to be in front of Zoom and several bottles of wine later.
Especially if you weren't having, a Bollywood scene to go along with it.
I know. So, and which, is another thing about the pacing of Sorry, Not Sorry is, I'm not sure if you caught this, but I wanted to make sure that, it happened very quickly because that's what happens in Bollywood movies. You see the gentleman who looks across the room and falls in love with a girl, and the next day they're married. And that's what the pacing of Sorry Not Sorry was for me, is it represented what I watched growing up, which were Bollywood movies.
Yeah. I mean, I was falling for it. I was putting myself in that moment and thinking, I could definitely do this. Yes. Hang out with somebody for a week, and then by the end, have a true relationship. Yeah, I'm game.
You were also game to just hang out with Manisha and party with her, Deb.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. She was great.
Well,
She's a whole
Manisha
lot of fun.
Oh, she's a whole lot of fun. And actually, she's going to be the protagonist in my second book, which is Fake Matchmaker. Yes.
What?
Oh,
Really?
Yes. So she's coming back. She gets her own book, and it is a big party with Manisha. So
Oh, my
God. Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I know, she's such a fun character, and I didn't want to, as much as you got, there were so many other layers to Manisha, and I think that she just deserves her own book.
definitely. So I'm South Asian, and I love that you wrote a book about a strong South Asian character. And Sonya, I was watching an interview with you, and I feel like we have a similar path because you were in entertainment and you grew up not seeing people like you. I grew up wanting to be Monica Diol as well, and, did TV and ended up in radio. But it's so nice to have people like you in this world of writing books. And it made me sad that you said that there almost wasn't room for two South Asian authors, because that would never happen in a non-South Asian world. So it's interesting that happened. Do you have other South Asian authors reaching out to you, hoping to follow in your path?
I do. My DMs, people are always sliding into my DMs now, asking a lot of questions about how to get started. And I absolutely am always offering feedback because unfortunately, I didn't have that door open for me, whether I was working in television and the entertainment industry, switched over to PR. I had to open all those doors for myself. And also, my parents are immigrants, and they worked in factories all their lives. So there wasn't a situation of, okay, well, so-and-so works here, so you can be an intern here, and eventually we'll move you up in the company. I had to sort of figure out how to do that on my own. And I think, one of the things that going into this as an author, which created almost this competitive base for me with other South Asian authors, because the agent had embedded in my brain that somebody else was coming out with a book who's South Asian, so there wasn't enough room, that I started to look at South Asian authors as my competition. And it really wasn't until the book came out that I realized that that's not the smart tactic to do. Those are my BBs, those are my sisters, and there's so little of us that I have to look at them as my friends and not my competitors.
Exactly. And it's so nice to see the Canadian authors banding together. Like, we've interviewed Marissa Stapley a few times. We've read 2 of her books, and it's so nice, the love that she gives you and you give her back. So it's just the whole, women empowering women. Let's support each other. We all have a place, and let's not compete or let people, get in our heads about competing. Let's help each other and move forward.
Yeah, I really hope that what you're saying is going to be a direction of, moving the needle in that way, that I can possibly next year, when The Fake Matchmaker comes out, I will have a South Asian author blurb my book versus Marissa, who I love. But, as a South Asian author, it would be nice to have a South Asian author who's really successful be the quote on my book as well.
Yeah, that would be amazing. What's the next book called?
The Fake Matchmaker with Manisha.
Okay. And then you also mentioned, I think I heard something about Christmas Spice.
So Christmas Spice is a movie that I'm writing for Hallmark. So it'll be the first South Asian Christmas holiday movie. And it'll have a cast of 3 South Asian actors. And it comes out in December of 2022.
Oh, that's amazing. So a lot of projects on the go here.
It's going to be the best Christmas ever.
Oh, my gosh, I can't wait. And, I think it's just I'm really excited about being able to represent and being able to open those doors for other South Asian women. And I think that that's what I was really born to do, is help anyone who's in the industry and doesn't really know where to start. Is I'm definitely there to give them a helping hand.
Wow. Sonya, you are such a treat. Like, what you have introduced to to so many of us is something that's really beautiful. So I want to thank you, as a non-South Asian woman. I really want to soak up this culture so much. I'm falling in love with everything that you've thrown at us.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that was the end goal, and hopefully it also made you hungry because I put in a lot of
so hungry, so very hungry.
I just finished telling Deb that I have 2 weddings coming up this summer, and she sounded quite jealous.
Oh yeah, just like, oh my gosh, the amount of money and time you spend with these outfits, but it's all worth it at the end of the day when you get to wait in line for the buffet, right?
Yeah, we all need an Alian in our life who can dress us.
You do. Yes, you do. Oh my gosh, I need one in my life too. But yeah, certainly a very fun cast of characters with Sorry Not Sorry.
And last question, with us being a book club, we both work in radio and with the podcast. Who are some upcoming authors that you recommend? Like, what books are you getting into right now?
Yeah, so I'm actually looking forward to Sonya Lawley has always been a rom-com author, and she's coming out with her first thriller, which is Where is Sarah? That comes out in August. I'm really excited to read that. And I love the fact that she transitioned from rom-com into this new genre. And Amita Parekh, who wrote The Circus Train, I'm loving her book. It's a genre that I normally wouldn't get into, fantasy, but it's so good. I highly recommend it. And Emily Giffen, who, was my first supporter even before I had a book deal. I sent her my draft. There's tons of grammar, spelling mistakes, and she put it on her Instagram, and from there I got my deal. So her book comes out, I think, at the end of the month, called Meant to Be. So those are my 3 favorites right now.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to maybe adding those to our list. Thank you so much, Sonya, for giving us your time. And like I said, we love this book. It was amazing. I'll probably reread it again or share it with friends because it was just that good.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that it got into your hands. And I'm just loving all these new relationships that I get to make, including with both of you.
Oh, thank you very much, Sonya.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, ladies. Have a wonderful week. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for kicking back and relaxing with us. We hope you'll join us again on Relaxing Reads.